Good evening, everyone. Time for a little online talk. My guest today, Hensel Pushers. Such a wonderful project. I don't know if you know about it. So there's this website. Hello, good evening. There's this wonderful website, henselpushers.org. And today I will talk with the person which is behind it. And there she is. So welcome. Yeah, waiting a little bit. Hi.
Hi, Ava. How are
Hello.
you?
So good to have you.
Yes, you too. I mean, thanks for having me. It's wonderful I admired your work for a long time, and it's wonderful to talk to you.
And same here. I love your project. So let's jump right into it. Can you please tell everyone who doesn't know it already what Hensel Pushers is?
Yeah, so my name is Molly, and I'm an amateur pianist and professional researcher um, in California, in Oakland, California. And my project is Hensel Pushers, and it's you can find it at henselpushers.org. And basically, what the project is to consolidate all of the information about Fanny Hensel's music and be kind of the central resource for any of Fanny Hensel's music. So I have big kind of databases of all of her compositions. She wrote over 450 compositions. And then for all of those that exist somewhere online, if you can find the sheet music online, I have that linked. So if you want to find a piano piece, go to the site, find the piano table, look up the piece, and there should be a link to it. If I have found it online, it's there. If it's not there, and if I can't find it online, then I'm going through her original autographs and transcribing them into PDF form and adding them myself. So I think I've put up maybe a few dozen at this point, maybe 60 or so of her pieces that weren't already online. And I'm starting with her solo piano pieces, but also working somewhat on her chamber pieces. And yeah, so that's the project.
Fantastic. This is such a mess of work. So since when have you been doing this?
I started doing this in the summer of 2020, so just over
Oh,
2 years. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but I like big projects. And of course, it was in the middle of the pandemic that I started it. So
mhm.
I had a lot of extra time on my hands. I needed something to do. So that's why I
And
picked
did it
this
just
as a big
happen,
project.
or did someone ask you, or was it a project that you always wanted to do? Oh,
So I don't, it did kind of just happen. I didn't start out thinking it was going to be such a big project, but so I had been in the year 2020. I'm a pianist, but I'm an amateur pianist, and I had taken some time away from piano. Yeah, I played really seriously in high school and college, and then took some time away from it. And then maybe in 2017, 2018, I came back to playing the piano pretty seriously. And so at the end of 2019, I was looking for a big project, a big piano project to get back
ah,
into. And that's when I found Fanny Hensel's Das Jahr, her cycle, The Year for piano, which is, if you don't know it, it's 12 pieces in a cycle, and each piece corresponds to a month of the year and kind of describes the feeling of that month. So January is very cold and frozen and slow, and then there's like gusts of wind that blow through and like this winter sound to it. Where July is very hot and melting and hot summer sun. So I discovered that piece at the end of 2019 and decided, oh, this is going to be my piano project for
where did you
2020.
discover it? On
Um,
YouTube
I
or?
I heard about it from some conversation on Twitter, and then I
Aha.
found it on IMSLP. Fortunately, it's one of the few pieces that's available on IMSLP by
Hmm.
Fanny Hensel. So I found it there, and so I decided every month. So January of 2020, I was going to learn January, February, I was going to learn February,
Oh,
which is a big
great.
project because it's a tough
It's
piece of
so
music.
difficult.
Yeah, it's very tough. Part of it, well, I didn't expect to do it very well. Part of my issue was I wanted to get over my perfectionism in performing and be okay performing things that weren't 100% perfect.
Great.
So that was a good exercise because they were not perfect at all. So that was the project, and that's how I got into it. And then when the pandemic hit really in March, I had more time on my hands. I started researching Fanny Hensel's life some more, and I found a great biography by her. If you're looking, there's a great biography by R. Larry Todd called Fanny Hensel, the Other Mendelssohn. And it has, in addition to stories about her life, it also has good kind of analysis and descriptions of her music. And so I went to IMSLP, and none of those pieces were on IMSLP. So I actually emailed the author of the book and said, where can I find these pieces? They're not being published. And he said, oh, you can probably find, they're all at the Berlin archive. You can, some of them have been digitized. You might be able to find them online. And hundreds of them were there, but they're photographs of Fanny Hensel's very messy handwriting, which is really hard to read. So just for myself, I started putting them into notation software to make nice, clean PDFs for myself. And then after I made about 5 or 10 of them, I thought some other people must want to see these too. Someone is looking for these on IMSLP and they're not there. So then that's when I started the website and just started putting them on there one after another.
So when you started the project, how many pieces were on IMSLP?
I think there were 22 pieces, or 22 piano pieces at least, that were on IMSLP. Yeah.
So all the sheet music that we can find on your site, you wrote it. There's no one else doing this work.
Yeah, sometimes I have some volunteers and some friends who will help me like proofread stuff after I put it together, but I do the first draft. And of course I link things to other things from IMSLP and other places online are there. And I need to, if you are looking for leader, I have the leader all listed on my site, so you can find it there. But all of Fanny's leader have already been transcribed by Tim Parker Langston, who is an incredible former PhD student. And for his dissertation, he did full edition of all of Fanny's leader, which is over 250 or so pieces of music. So he's taking care of all of the leader, which is great. So I'm trying to do the piano and chamber music is my goal.
Wow, that's really, really great. And I also love this edition that you made. It's so wonderful because we talked about das Jahr, the year, and this is a simplified version, and I love it so much. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much you were one of my first purchases of that book. So thank you for buying it.
I love it. And I really try to share everything that you do because I think it's so precious what you do and so great. And we all love it because I know how much work you put in there. It's amazing, really. Thank you.
It's a lot of work. Of course. No, I mean, I love doing it. So, the last December, I think it was, I released the book that you have, which is it's a simplified version of Das Jahr, because as I mentioned, I discovered learning Das Jahr in 2020. It's a huge piece. The cycle together is maybe an hour long of music, and it's technically very difficult to play. There's multiple different key signatures in every piece, and
she was a fantastic pianist.
She was a phenomenal pianist, because just playing most of her music on the piano is so challenging, and for her to have written all of that, it's incredible. But so what I decided to do, I thought, this is, and amid all of the really technical, difficult music in there's some beautiful themes and storytelling. And I thought, this is something that I think about myself when I was maybe 10 or 12 years old. I would have loved to play something like this. I don't remember playing any music by women composers until very late in my piano career. So I thought, for people who are either newer to piano or younger students, or people who just aren't, full-time professional pianists who want to devote so much time, I wanted a simpler, more accessible version of Das Jahr to be there. So I made this book, which has all 12 of the pieces from the cycle, but simplified. So there's, maybe 40 measures long or so. So they're a couple minutes each. I've really reduced it so that maybe taking 1 or 2 themes instead of, 5 or 6 themes in each piece. and just made a more accessible version of it. And then I also made a lesson book to go with it, which kind of helps practice picks out one or two of the most difficult techniques for people learning the easy version, and has some exercises for that, and some exercises also about how to think about the music and performing the music, which is my favorite part, is like coming up with a story to go with the piece, and figuring out what's the articulations of the dynamics that I want to use for it. So kind of exercises of how to think through that. So that was also a really a project that I really loved doing, and something that I'd like to do more of for Fanny Hensel's music also in the future.
So like a small piano school, actually.
Yeah, kind of.
Fanny Hensel piano school.
I mean, the thing, and what I learned, why I did that was through what she does in Das Jahr, you can learn all of the basics of piano technique at a simplified version, right? There's pieces where she uses a lot of parallel thirds or contrasting staccato and legato, right? Like all of the things that you learn about being a pianist, you can learn through little snippets of her work. So that was kind of the goal of the lesson book part of that.
Did you improve your own piano playing through this project? Yes?
Yes, absolutely. Because as I mentioned before, my problem as a pianist is I had horrible stage fright. I was always very afraid of performing. I was always, and a perfectionist too. Like I hear in my head how I want it to sound. And because, I have another job and I have a life outside of piano, I don't have enough time to get it sounding exactly how I want to all the time. And all I hear when I listen to it are the mistakes or the ways that it's not perfect to me. And I knew that was a problem, and I knew I needed to fix that. So that's part of why I think the main thing that I improved through learning this piece was just learning pieces more quickly and figuring out how to kind of tell a story and communicate the emotions that I wanted to through the story, even if the technique is not perfect, even if I don't remember every single note. And that was a really good exercise.
Great. At the moment, I started with November from her. It's actually my first real contact with Das Jahr, and it's such an amazing piece. And maybe we talk about Fanny Hensel, the composer, because I think she's really, it's amazing what she does with harmony, especially, I think. What is your opinion? I mean, you work with her since 2 years.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about her, well, first of all, she was clearly just as you said, a really technically proficient pianist. All of her music is incredibly difficult to play in some way. I mean, there's a few that are easier, like some of her earlier pieces, but she was very creative. And I think that the most impressive thing to me about looking through her music, because she was only composing for herself, right? So her father told her, you're a woman. She was a wealthy woman. You can't be a professional musician. And I think she wanted to do that. But she also wanted to be a good daughter and wife and sister and fill all of those roles that she needed to. So she didn't pursue music professionally or publicly. Kind of. She found a way to do it eventually. But because she was only composing for herself, she broke a lot of the conventions and kind of rules for composing at the time. And like, there are a lot of situations where Felix would listen to her music and kind of disapprove of how outside of the normal form she would go. And, so I love Felix's music, but it's a lot more, early romantic, very influenced by the classical era, very structured, following all of the rules of the time. And Fanny, especially in her later years, really was like pushing the boundaries of those rules. And, how many different keys can I go through to get from this key to this key, right? And she can hit a lot of keys.
And it's sort of her style somehow, with a lot of chromatic. And especially when you look at this November, I think this piece is really good, because in the beginning it's really like, where is she going?
Yeah.
And in one biography I read that there's one chord where she's very close to the Tristan chord. It's only one note which is different. She nearly was there.
Yeah.
And this
So
is
yeah, very ahead of her time, right? Like
and
she was,
brave,
yeah,
really brave.
extremely
And I
brave.
think this is why her brother also criticized her, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's a complicated relationship between them
Uh-huh.
because they were both, they were best friends their entire life until Felix went off to be a professional. They were collaborators and everything. Even later on, they really influenced each other. I mean, he would send his compositions, especially his major compositions, to her for her feedback.
And he needed
And
her.
he needed her, yeah, both as
Yes.
to talk through the process and to give really detailed criticisms of his work. So so they relied on each other in that way. It's complicated so their father was the one who mostly had discouraged her,
Hmm.
had discouraged Fanny from publishing or doing music professionally. And then after he died, which was in late 1835, Fanny considered publishing for the first time. So she must have been about 30 years old, something like that. And you can see in her notes, she collected 10 of her piano pieces and put them together in an order, that
Hmm.
wasn't the order she wrote them. So, and I think she probably showed them to a publisher because there's some markings on them that there aren't on her other pieces that
Oh.
would be appropriate for a
Hmm.
publisher. And then there are letters from the family around the time where it seemed like she was asking Felix to approve of her
Hmm.
publishing, and
Hmm.
he would not. And then there's a letter between their mother and Felix, and Leah, their mother, is like asked Felix, like, why won't you just tell Fanny she should publish this and support her? And his response, whether it was true or not, I don't know, but he said, well, if she wants to publish, I will support her, but I won't encourage her to publish.
Hmm.
And I don't know what that was about. I don't know if maybe he would have been a little bit jealous, or if maybe he was taking on their father's role of now he's the one who has to tell her that she can't publish. I don't know what it was, but it's a very complicated relationship the two of them had.
There was this very embarrassing situation for him when he was with the Queen in England. And
Yeah.
he told her to choose a song, and she said Italian, and then he had
Mm-hmm.
to admit that it isn't from him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's the few pieces of Fanny's that were known at, or known at the time when they were alive, were a few of Felix's early opuses of Lieder.
Hmm.
Had like the family just like slipped in a few of Fanny's songs in there. And they didn't credit her. It was just part of Felix's
Hmm.
opus. But that was kind of the way that their father was okay with her being participating, because they recognized she was a talented musician and they
Hmm.
appreciated her musical ability, but they thought it wouldn't be appropriate to make it public. So so that was the situation. Felix, when he met the Queen of England, she said, "Oh, my favorite piece by yours is Italian," and that was actually Fanny's piece. And he did tell the Queen. He said, "Actually, that's my sister's piece." So
And I really think this is a shame because everyone today is talking about quality in music. And when you have this blind test, actually, this was a blind test.
yeah.
Well, if you say it's about quality, well, she's equal and maybe even better.
Yeah, definitely. As a performer, there's no question. As a pianist, her technical ability, she was by far, by all accounts, better than Felix
And her
as a
pieces
pianist.
are so good. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
and so much,
So
yeah,
the
more challenging. And Felix is hard to play, but Fanny is even
it's
harder
harder.
to play. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So maybe can you tell us, maybe from your point of view, what do you think is the importance of Fanny in the music history?
I think it's complicated. Because
Hmm.
like we were saying, she didn't get to have this public life that Felix did. So her
But she
importance,
did the Sonntagsmusiken and
yeah,
the
yes,
Sunday musics.
exactly.
They were really, yeah, the
Yeah,
people knew it. Liszt was
exactly.
there, and uh,
Oh yeah, and all of the performing musicians of the day were there. So
and
this
Gounod
is,
also. He loved her.
yeah, Gounod was, I think he was very important in eventually getting her to publish. I think she met Gounod she took one year-long tour of Italy, which she had
Mm.
wanted to do forever when she was in her maybe mid 30s or so, and met Gounod there and a number of other artists, and was finally outside of her family circle for the first time. And she met all of these artists who encouraged her, like, your music is really good. Like, you should share this with people. You should publish this. And I think that is why eventually, in the last year before her life, she finally published her own music. But I think, so yeah, I think being exposed to those other musicians and really hearing from them their, appreciation for her music was important. But yeah, you mentioned the Sunday concerts.
Yes.
That was her kind of workaround. Technically they were private because they were in her residence. People had to be invited to attend, but there were hundreds of people that would show
Yeah.
up to these musical
Up
afternoons. And
to 300 or
I
something.
think so.
So
So yeah,
it's not
several
so
hundred people.
small. Yeah.
No, it's bigger than a lot of public performances are, certainly. And every touring musician of the day would come through and perform there, or at least visit and see one of the concerts. And it was an important, she programmed these concerts weeks ahead of time. She put in a lot of attention to planning, what pieces would go well together. She picked a lot of contemporary composers of the day. She also loved Bach and Beethoven. So she included them also, but a lot of contemporary musicians of the day got their music played because she was kind of a tastemaker in that way. And she was, she performed at them pretty often. I don't think she performed her own music very often. She performed other people's music. She performed Felix's music a lot. She directed the choirs and orchestra.
But
And
her
she made
cantatas
programs.
and choir music, I think she performed it
I
there,
think
and
she
also
performed, yeah.
her overture also.
Yeah. So she performed some of her music, but that wasn't the purpose of those events, and it wouldn't be appropriate for her to really center herself all the time. But everyone in Berlin, everyone in Europe knew who she was, and she was an important person to see um, in those events. So that's kind of the way that she was able to make herself really important in the musical life of Europe, even though she couldn't be public. And then, of course, as we said, her influence is felt through Felix's music, right? I don't think there's a piece of Felix's music that doesn't have her influence on it, either because she directly gave him feedback and helped him edit it, or because every time he wrote anything, he would think, what would Fanny say about this?
Yes.
So I think that's the primary legacy we have of her music today is through Felix's music. It's really influenced by her.
And there's this episode in, I read the Tila biography, which is really amazing.
It's a great one, yeah.
Tila, yeah. Where Fanny describes, Felix was directing the Bach performance, and then another conductor was taking over, and she is describing in the letter what went wrong with this new conductor, and it was really amazing because this analysis is so great, and it's very clear. She hears everything, and her standards are up there. Yeah. So I think this was really impressive.
Oh yeah, there's a story about her. I think when she was 12 years old, she performed all of the preludes from Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier by memory at 12 years old. So
at 12,
she had, right. So she had that kind of memory. And that mind for music that Felix did too. They both had that kind of understanding and really rich. Their brains worked in that way. But yeah, the
like twins, actually. Yeah, musical twins.
I mean, and there are a lot of situations actually where they wrote. There's a few different examples of this where when they were separated, maybe Felix was in London or in Leipzig or somewhere, and Fanny was back at home in Berlin. They would write pieces of music and then send them to each other to be like, oh, this is what I've been working on. And there were a few cases where they would send each other what they had written, and it was like nearly the same piece of music, like same style, same key signature, same time signature, same everything. And it was funny, the family would kind of remark on that, like they're thinking the same things musically. But yeah, so like you said, the St. Matthew's Passion revival, which is why we have Bach today. That performance brought Bach back into the mainstream. That was really a collaboration by Fanny and Felix. They worked for maybe a year together to prepare that performance. And Felix was in Berlin for that first performance, and I maybe gave a couple performances there, but then he had to go back to, I forget where he was at the time, but he had to go back to another, had to leave Berlin. So they found, like you said, this other conductor. I don't remember who he was, but they found some other conductor to do the later performances, because Felix couldn't be there. And Fanny was just sitting in the back, like hearing every wrong note. The basses came in at the wrong point. They did the trombones didn't hit or this note, or what, you know, she could hear it, and she was frustrated, and like you said,
and very self-confident actually, because this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, too late, too early, too deep, too
well, she knew she was right. She knew she was right.
Yes.
She knew this guy didn't know what he was doing, and you know, it would have been so much, the performance would have been so much better, and she would have deserved, or, you know, gotten the recognition she deserved for her role in that if she had just been able to conduct those later performances. But again, it wouldn't have been appropriate. But we know from her letters, like you said, she could have done it better, definitely.
And at her Sonntagsmusiken, she obviously also conducted, because there's this one quote where a woman, I think a composer, is writing that she was so impressed by the conducting of Fanny Hensel, because with her pinky, she has even so much passion to communicate.
Yeah,
I think this is awesome. So if I imagine that she would really have been able to do a really professional career, this would have been so great. So nowadays she would be a superstar, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Someone wrote in the comments that Liszt and the Schumanns were present at the Sonntagsmusiken. Yeah, I also think that I read it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you tell us, so earlier we said it's a lot of work, of course. How much time do you actually dedicate to your project?
I've never actually counted how much time I've
So is it
spent on
it's
it,
everyday work with social media, of course, because you feed it all the time?
I don't do a whole lot of social media. I try to stay off of social media mostly just because it's sometimes horrible. It takes so much time and energy, but I use.
Do you get a bad? How is the reception of your project? Do you get?
For me, it's great. Yeah, for me, all the reception is great. You know, I feel bad if, you know, Sarah Fritz. She's the Clara Schumann chief Clara Schumann promoter on Twitter. She gets a lot of negative attention, which from crazy people who are not okay with her saying things like Clara Schumann is a genius, which seems to me like just a objective statement of fact with lots of evidence for it. But you know, I don't really get too provocative on there, I don't think, and I don't spend too much time on there. I don't have as big an audience as she does either. I mostly use social media to let people know if there's a new collection of music. So in terms of how much time I spend, most of the time I spend is so the process is I'll go through the list of all of the pieces and find a set of pieces that don't already exist in PDF somewhere, and kind of choose a collection that goes together in some way. Maybe they're from a certain period in her life, or a certain theme, or a certain form, and choose between maybe 5 and 15 pieces that go together, and then go to the archives, create those, you know, transcribe them in the transcription software, print it out, and then take it to the piano, play through, and try to look for errors. Because a lot, you know, the fact that Fanny Hensel was writing so quickly, it's like the music was just flowing out of her, that she would forget to add, you know, accidentals sometimes, or forget to like clearly notate if she's changing keys or changing time signature. So it takes a lot of it's sort of a puzzle to figure out what's going on.
So you're doing sort of a critical edition.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I try to balance. It's not a completely, you know, critical edition. Like I try to.
But obvious mistakes, you correct them.
I correct obvious mistakes. I try to make it readable. I try to find a balance between, but So I'll go through, play it at the piano, go back and correct it, play it at the piano, kind of do a few cycles of that, usually maybe 3 or 4 times, and then put it all online, write up kind of a summary of the whole collection and what was going on in Fanny's life when she wrote these pieces, what's notable about the pieces, and then publish them. And then I think I publish it seems like maybe every 2 or 3 months I have a collection to put up. So yeah, that's the process.
How many pieces are missing?
I looked at this the other day. I think there's about 25. So missing in terms of, there's a few pieces that she wrote that are just lost to history. We don't know where
both.
they are.
So the pieces that are lost and the pieces which are published already.
Let's see. So I posted this. You could look on my Instagram. I posted this a few days ago for the piano music, I think. But I want to say something like maybe 5 or 10 pieces of all of her pieces, 450 or something, have been lost completely. That we know of. They might resurface again. That's what happened with her Easter Sonata. We thought it was lost, and then it showed up again in 2012. So they might come back. And then of her piano music, I think that I have transcribed, I think 40% of her piano music, and then I think there's about a quarter, I think maybe 25% or so that's still ready to go. So I have that's my goal for the next. It'll probably take me 2 more years or so to get through all of those.
Okay. Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. So do you have other questions? I was thinking about something. Yeah. Do people play more Hensel music?
I think so. I mean, part of it is, I think, over the last 2 years, I've become, more people have found me and the website, and I found more people. So, but I get a lot of emails from people who say, oh, I've been looking for this and now I found it. Or maybe
great.
People who have a performance coming up, or they have a performance of Fanny Hensel that they just put on YouTube, or they're releasing an album and they'll let me know so that I can share it. And I'm always really happy to do that. So if you're looking for publicity for your Fanny Hensel performances, albums, whatever, let me know. So I'm certainly a lot more tuned in to that now than I was before, but it does seem to me like more people are doing it. I mean, we're at a moment right now with women composers in general where there's a lot more performance, which is great. And I think Fanny Hensel and Clara Schumann are like the easiest entry points for people who came up through the traditional classical music training. They're a good place to start if you don't know any other women composers or you don't know where to start. So Fanny Hensel is getting a lot of attention. I think that she is being performed a lot more right now.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Yeah. What are your long-term goals, or do you have any dreams? Maybe concerning standard repertoire or something in this direction?
Oh, wow. I don't know if there should be standard repertoire. I don't think there should be. I think what I like about playing music and what I like about hearing other people play music is what they choose to play. It tells you so much about a musician, the pieces that they bring to a concert or a competition or an audition, right? Like I want to know, and that you could make an argument maybe for students that it makes sense to learn certain pieces because of the techniques that you're learning, or maybe because of the importance in history or whatever, but I don't even know if that's true. I think that there should be, people should play what speaks to them and play it in a way that speaks to them. I also don't really believe in this is just personally, but I don't really believe in following what composers suggest in the music. I think as a performer, your job is to do whatever you want with the music and the way that you want to. So, for goals for the future or dreams for the future, I think anyone who has been forced to play a Chopin piece in their piano studies should know a Fanny Hensel piece. I never really liked Chopin very much. I know a lot of people, pianists really like Chopin. I never got it. Sorry, Robert Schumann too. I never really got Robert Schumann. So I think people who feel like me, maybe, and as a piano student had to learn all of those and just didn't really get it. So I like for there to be alternatives for people. And I think that Fanny Hensel is a great alternative because she wrote, she captures so many different kind of styles and emotions and feelings in her music that I think there's something, you know, if you like romantic piano music at all, I think there's something that she wrote that will really speak to you.
Mm.
Oh, and then for goals for Hensel pushers, the main goal is just to get all of, if her music exists, if I could get my eyes on her music, put it on the website, put it in a PDF, put it on the website, and starting with the piano and chamber music. And I have more chamber music coming up next month.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're gonna get all of her chamber music on there within the next year, I think.
What instruments did she write for?
So her chamber music, she wrote a string quartet, which is phenomenal, which is already up there. You can download it. She wrote a piano trio, which is also phenomenal. She wrote that at the end of her life. The piano trio she wrote in the last year of her life. And she wrote a piano quartet, was one of, I think that was the first piece of chamber music she wrote. I think she was 16 or 17 when she wrote it. So you have this, between those three pieces, you have the piano quartet she wrote at the very beginning of her career. You have the string quartet she wrote in kind of, I think it was shortly after she, must have been shortly after she gave birth and got married and kind of had that transition in her life. And then she wrote the piano trio at the end of her life. So that those three together are fantastic. And all of those are online already. And then she wrote 4 duets for piano and strings. One of them is lost, but there are 3 remaining. So those are the ones that are going to come out next month. So 2 pieces for piano and cello and 1 for piano and violin.
Are they difficult or easier pieces?
Everything's difficult. Everything's difficult.
So also with the string instruments, it's the same. Also,
it's
okay.
the same. I know at least the cello pieces I know are pretty difficult. But they're, and again, I think the violin, the adagio for violin and piano is, she wrote that when she was pretty young, also maybe a late teenager. She wrote that. So that one might be a little bit easier, I think. But the cello pieces are, yeah, you can agree, Nove piano. they're difficult.
I was also looking through her choir works to find something easier, and it was quite tricky.
Yeah, definitely. She's I mean, it just speaks to her brilliance and her ability that it was, all of her music is like that, which means it was nothing for her. She just sat down and, you know, did it, which is phenomenal.
So will you also make more of those easier versions? Because I think this would really help to get an access to her music for people who are not that brilliant.
Yeah, no, and for me too. I mean, I don't want to put all that energy into learning every single one of her major pieces. Yeah, that is something I want to do. I want to make arrangements just to allow more musicians in every way, in every direction, to play her music. So part of that will be transcriptions for other instruments. So for example, the violin and piano piece that's coming out, not yet, but eventually I'm hoping to, you know, make a version of that where the slurs are a little bit different, take out the double stops, and then it'll be appropriate for oboe or flute or some other, you know, woodwind instrument, for example. So that's part of what I want to do, because she didn't write anything for woodwinds, or, you know, she really stuck with mostly voice, piano, and a few string instruments. So open that up to, you know, like you mentioned her choir music, doing something like that for like I don't know, a brass quintet would be really fantastic, or just bringing
and maybe even easier choir scores. Yeah.
And easier choir. And I mean, I'm a pianist, so what I'm most comfortable with is the piano stuff. I actually did, my mother recently retired, and she was a violist when she was younger, but she, after she retired, decided she wanted to learn how to play piano. So I took a few Fanny Hensel songs and made very, very simple beginner piano versions of those to give to my mother. So I'm going to edit those a little bit more and maybe release some of those. I want those to be accessible. So I think all of Fanny's original music that I transcribe will always be free on the website. And then I want if I have a collection of maybe 2 or 3 of her pieces arranged for like beginner piano, I want to have those just be digital downloads, maybe, I don't know, $3 or $5 each, something very affordable that
Great.
students can access. And she wrote so many beautiful melodies. Like there's a lot of challenging
Yes.
technical stuff, but a lot of this music is really easy to make into simple beginner
Yeah.
piano because the melodies are just simple and
Her songs without words, they are
yeah,
so beautiful.
yeah. If you like Felix's songs without words, check out Fanny's songs without words.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So maybe we're nearly at the end. Do you have some recommendations for us? So maybe books and, of course, your favorite music.
Okay, yes, I do. So I mentioned the two biographies that I recommend if you're interested in reading about Fanny Hensel are the Françoise Tillard, which you mentioned, called Fanny Mendelssohn. It was originally published in French and then translated maybe 20 years ago into English, which is where I read it. And that's mostly about her life, her family. And then there's a lot of analysis in that one too, where Tillard kind of speculates about, well, when her mother said this, maybe she meant this, and kind of a new reading on her life, which I really appreciate. And then the other biography is called Fanny Hensel, the Other Mendelssohn by R. Larry Todd. And that's great. It's a very detailed biography of her, all of the things that were going on in her life. But there's also quite a bit of analysis of her music in the middle of the biography.
Ah,
So if you
okay.
want that musical analysis, that's what I would recommend. And then for other resources, I mentioned henselssongsonline.org that has all of her lieder. Also, they're raising money right now to record a double CD of Fanny's lieder.
Oh, wow.
So go check out Tim Parker Langston's socials to find that. But they're going to record a lot of pieces that have not yet been recorded by Fanny. So that's, I think they're raising money for another couple weeks. And then another shout out is to Piano Music She Wrote, which I know you
Yes.
know Erica and Sandra from Piano Music She Wrote. They were really important in kind of motivating me. They started up around the same time that I did, and their whole thing was, we need more, sheet music by women composers. So that really gave me more confidence to say, like, okay, people do want this. People will find this useful. And then what else so as far as Fanny's music, I already mentioned several things. If you like big piano cycles of Robert Schumann, check out Das Jahr. If you like the string quartets of Felix, check out Fanny's string quartet. I think it's E flat major. She only wrote one. If you like big dramatic piano sonatas, Fanny wrote a few sonatas, but I recommend the G minor sonata, incredible, and then the Easter sonata, which was kind of recently rediscovered.
How many sonatas did she write?
She wrote, I think she wrote 4. I think she completed 4. She started one she started one when she was maybe in her early 20s, and she didn't complete it, and then she revisited it later, and that is what became her string quartet. So the first 2 movements of her string quartet began as a piano sonata that she never finished. And then she wrote, I think, one more when she was younger that is lost, and one more when she was younger that I'm gonna get to pretty soon. It's maybe in the next piano collection.
Okay, great.
But then the two big ones, later ones, are the G minor sonata and the Easter sonata. And then just so many little, songs without words and pieces like that. If you're looking for recommendations, send me a message or something and tell me what you like, and I can try to point you towards something. But there's, or just go, browse through the website. I also created, because I recognize that, not everyone is comfortable like sitting down and reading through this incredibly difficult music on the piano, or just reading through the sheet music and kind of having an idea of how it sounds. I started a YouTube channel a while ago where I just took the MIDI version of what was produced by the sheet music notation software and just put it in, and there's little visualizations. The sound is not great because it's just computer, MIDI generated sound, but you can find Hensel pushers on YouTube. I haven't put
Okay.
all of the pieces on there yet because I don't have enough time to do all of the things that I want to
Hmm.
do with this. But you can go through and all of the pieces that are on the YouTube that are on the YouTube channel are also available in PDF on the website. So go listen to some things on the YouTube channel and then
Hmm.
find the score of the one that you like on the website.
Oh, that's great. We
Mhm.
have one comment. So he's writing, I think Funny was ahead of Felix, especially regarding to the genre of songs without words. You agree?
Agree. Totally
Yes.
agree. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I mean, and I think she may have been the one that created the term songs without words. There's some letters
Aha.
where she, and it sounds like something she and Felix, because, you know, they worked together so closely as children, it
Hmm.
sounds like something that they maybe had been talking about, or between the two of them, they had this thing called Songs Without Words for a long time. And then there's a
Aha.
letter maybe from 1830, 1829, something where she writes to someone else about their songs without words. But that was definitely a creation of both Fanny and Felix together.
Aha. Oh, that's
Mhm.
great. So thanks a lot for that comment. And yeah, Molly, it was really amazing to talk to you. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks from everyone, and especially from me, for your amazing work. And it's really such a wonderful project. So I hope you continue for a long time. I'm waiting for your publications. And yeah, we really appreciate your work. Thanks so, so
Thank
much.
you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for always supporting what I do and sharing my stuff. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, I plan to be doing this for a while, so I'm not going anywhere.
Fantastic. So in 10 years, when you have 10-year jubilee,
If
we
that's
will
what it
see.
takes, then I'll be here. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't give up, just continue. This is so
Absolutely.
great. So thanks a lot from Leipzig. You know, in Leipzig, there's the fantastic Mendelssohn House.
I'll visit
Um,
someday, definitely.
yeah, so when you're in Leipzig, when you're around, just tell me and then we'll do a little tour.
I would
Thanks a
love to.
lot and a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.